Do students even want to be in school? We've assumed yes, but that's costing us millions of students. Well, I have some exciting news. States across the country have an array of credit flex policies. Students can earn credit for learning that happens outside of the traditional classroom. Internships, community projects, self-directed study.
So that checked-out learner who's obsessed with fashion and design, that is art and business credit through apprenticeship.
The real-life learner who started a landscaping business coming out of COVID, that's economics, communications, language arts, geometry, leadership, all creditworthy.
The new absenteeism is a term that was coined in our 2025 publication of research that we did, that Principal Ra and Mark Merrill of our very own Knowledge were contributors.
So without further ado, we have our first Ignite speakers, Colleen and Izzy, and they're going to be talking to us about the new absenteeism, the 5 profiles of youth engagement.
All right, y'all. For generations, we have measured students with a line. Present or absent, in or out. It's simple, right? You're either here or you're not. But what if this line is missing something critical? What is the new absenteeism? The new absenteeism is a term that was coined in our 2025 publication of research that we did, that Principal Ra and Mark Merrill of our very own Knowledge were contributors. That's right, that's right. And I'm going to invite my teammate Izzy to come up and share a little bit more.
I ditched math class to learn video editing. In fact, I almost failed 2 of my most important college classes to take a work trip to Canada. The funny thing, though, I was learning way more in those absences than I ever did sitting at a desk.
The attendance data said Izzy was absent, but was she?
I wasn't absent to learning. I was just learning in a place where it didn't count.
That's right. My research team at the Reinvention Lab, our Reinvention Lab at Teach for America, conducted ethnographic interviews and co-design sessions with over 120 nationwide young people who were navigating chronic absenteeism, and also with the adults who were in their network, their support system. We wanted to get more proximate to the problem to better understand, what are you experiencing? What are you noticing? And what are we missing when we merely measure who is in and who is out? And here's a little bit of what we learned. That this line of who's in and who's out was actually a grid. Because there was a second question that we have historically never asked.
Do students even want to be in school? We've assumed yes, but that's costing us millions of students.
It sure is. When you came in, you were handed a card. I invite you to take that card out. What you have in your hands are the insights that came out of this research that's entitled From Chronic Absenteeism to the New Absenteeism, 5 Profiles of Youth Engagement. Here's a little bit of what we heard from the young people that we spoke with. My dad got sick, so I had to work.
I'm learning more outside of school than inside.
School doesn't even ask me what I care about anyways.
It's just hard to go to school and having to do all of this stuff when I don't even want to exist, you know?
That one's heavy. They're all heavy. And this line, this initial x-axis, is the line of action. It shows us who is in and who is out of school. But this additional line that we added, that we heard from our interviews, is the y-axis of motivation. It shows us who wants to be in school versus who doesn't want to be in school. And when we overlay these 2 lines, these axes, it creates this grid that you're holding in your hand. It also illuminates the 5 profiles of youth engagement. So let's meet the profiles. Pretending that this stage is this grid, in this upper right quadrant, we have at the intersection of in school and wants to be in school, the first profile of engaged. This group is showing up, they're doing school, it seems to be working for them, or at least they've learned how to make it work for them. Maybe they have conformed. This group sounds like, I'm doing just fine. But what we learned is that they're actually the minority.
In the top left quadrant, at the intersection of not in school and wants to be in school, we have systemically blocked. These are the students that most people think of when we're talking about chronic absenteeism. They want to be in school, but because of transportation, laundromat money for clean clothes, or family obligations, they're not able to get there. This profile sounds like, I know school's important, but life happens. Most interventions focus here, and they're doing a good job. In fact, we've heard from most young people that they don't stay in this quadrant for long as they're receiving the right kinds of relief and their current circumstances don't continue to detain them.
Mm-hmm. Now, in this lower right quadrant at the intersection of in school but doesn't want to be in school, we have the group of students who self-identified as checked out. This group of students, they are showing up day after day, maybe even with perfect attendance. This group sounds like, I'm here, but what's the point? Because while they are physically present, they are mentally and emotionally checked out, disengaged and absent. Their mind is someplace else that maybe matters more to them. And what they're asking from us is, can you help me find learning that is deeply personally meaningful?
In the bottom left quadrant, at the intersection of not in school and does not want to be in school, we have real life learners. This is my primary quadrant. We're deeply engaged, just not with school. We're creating businesses, organizing communities, making art, teaching ourselves skills that feel urgent and alive. This profile just sounds like, I'm doing something different. We're learning more outside of school than inside of it. So our question is, can you see what we're learning outside and give us credit for it?
And circling all around this 2x2 is the fifth and final profile of in crisis. When we were speaking with students, we heard them share that at any moment of any of these different quadrants, they had experienced various seasons of being jolted into in crisis. This looked like trauma, housing insecurity, food insecurity, abuse, chronic bullying, and the list goes on and on. Real situations that they were just drowning in and struggling to get through day by day. They didn't even have the luxury to ask themselves, where do I want to be or what do I want to be doing? They were merely trying to exist. This group sounds like, I'm just done. And they don't need consequences. They need deeply intentional care. The quadrant that Izzy named up here, systemically blocked, is where most of our solutions currently lie, as Izzy named. And they're really important and deeply impactful, but they're not doing nearly enough, or it's not making a big enough impact on the profiles that lay below the line that represent the new absenteeism, because they have a target audience and a target solutions that they're giving.
So, looking at the new absenteeism below the line profiles on your cards, checked out in real life learners, checked out, physically present, but mentally and emotionally absent.
And real life learner is physically present, but emotionally deeply engaged. Both are asking us, from real life learner and checked out, don't just look at my attendance. Don't just measure my seat time. That's not where the real learning and value is lying. Can you shift the question from are you present to are you learning and growing in ways that are deeply personally meaningful?
So, pull out your phone or a notebook and think about one student you're currently worried about or a young person. Write down their name and their initials. Now, even if you're thinking about it, I see some people not writing it down.
It's okay. You can just hold them in your heart and in your mind. We know they're there.
Think about which profile you think they're in. Don't overthink it, though. Just trust your gut and place them there.
If you are thinking of a student who is in checked out or real life learner, that student is living the new absenteeism right now. And here's the amazing opportunity. We actually have control over this. If we know what that user group, what those user groups want, we know how to provide it. What the opportunity is, what if we give for the checked out learner who is dying for personally meaningful engagement? What if we give that to them? What if for the real life learner who is saying, I'm learning amazing things, help me make it legible and credible within the system towards my high school graduation? What if we were able to do that?
Well, I have some exciting news. States across the country have an array of credit flex policies. Like Ohio's credit flexibility or various states' mastery-based or competency-based learning, like we have here in California, students can earn credit for learning that happens outside of the traditional classroom. internships, community projects, self-directed study.
So that checked out learner who's obsessed with fashion and design, that is art and business credit through apprenticeship.
The real-life learner who started a landscaping business coming out of COVID, that's economics, communications, language arts, geometry, leadership, all credit-worthy.
We know that we have the capabilities, the policies, and by the folks in this room, as a subset, we know that we have the will to actually shift from the question of, are you present, to the more profound, meaningful, rich question of, are you learning and growing in ways that are deeply meaningful to your present and your future? And so I'm going to invite you to go back to that student who you are holding in your head, in your heart. Maybe you jotted them down in your phone or on a note. And this coming week, in the month of February, ask them, what is one thing that you are learning that is deeply, personally meaningful to you?
Then you're going to believe them. Don't reframe, don't redirect, just listen and just trust their opinion.
And ask yourself, what if I, as a teacher, as a person who holds spaces of learning, could make this checked out learner's experience full of sparked, ignited, passion-filled, personally meaningful learning? And what if maybe as a school leader, I could use my state's policies to make my real-life learner students learning legible and credible? What if?
So, the old question, are you in school?
It gave us a line that hid millions of students.
The new question, are you learning and growing in ways that are personally meaningful?
It gives us a grid that reveals them. So when we change the question,
We change what we see.
and when we change what we see,
We change what's possible.
Boy, give it up. Give it up for Colleen and Izzy. Thank you so much.